Lexus Sports Extra with Josh Moser, Mike DePasquale, Donovan Campbell, and Drew Rosenhaus.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into another playoff edition of Lexus Sports Extra. I'm Josh Moser. This week, extra special. We have both the Heat and the Panthers in the postseason on the hardwood. The top-seeded Heat begin the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs against the fourth-seeded 76ers. Great news for Miami. Jimmy Butler practicing 2 days in a row. Buckets missing Game 5 against the Hawks due to right knee inflammation. However, the Heat will be without starting point guard Kyle Lowry for a third straight game. Former NBA champ is still nursing a hamstring injury.
We've had so many different rotations and lineups during the course of the year that we've been forced to stay in the present moment.
We prepare for, situations like that. I being out, Jimmy being out, and Kyle being out, a lot throughout the season. I feel like, guys have got enough minutes, enough experience.
Like the Heat, the 76ers are also dealing with injury. Joel Embiid will not travel for games 1 and 2 in Miami. Embiid suffering an orbital fracture and a concussion in Thursday's series-clinching win in Toronto.
I feel bad for my guy. Obviously, one of my former teammates, arguably the MVP of this league. And I think I speak for everybody that's a part of this team. Like, we want Joe to play. We want to go up against them at full strength and prove we can hang with anybody and we can beat anybody.
Our Heat insider, Ethan Skolnick, joining Lexus Sports Extra. We appreciate you as always, my man.
Good to be with you, Josh.
Big question going into Game 1 of Round 2 is the health of Jimmy Butler. He says that he's ready to go. Ethan, what's your concern level for him?
No concern level over Jimmy Butler. He's playing in Game 1. Watched him work out a little bit today after practice. He was making jump shots. He's fine. He would have actually played in another game in the Atlanta series if there had been one. He just tweaked the knee a little bit. Maybe something he has to deal with after the season, but for right now, Josh, he's fine.
We saw Victor Oladipo inserted into the lineup in Butler's absence. What do you envision his role to be this series?
He will have a role in this series, particularly at the beginning. No Kyle Lowry, so you're going to see Gabe Vincent as the starter in the series. But then you're taking a look at Victor Oladipo coming off the bench with Tyler Hero. One of the things that they've been trying to work out is the connection between Hero and Oladipo. They actually sat down about it before today's practice. Who's handling, who's not handling, who's playing off the ball. But Victor Oladipo is going to get minutes at the start of the series, and he'll have an opportunity to earn more minutes throughout the playoffs.
What about Kyle Lowry? We've seen him gone since Game 3 of the first series. What do you expect from him?
No Game 1. We don't anticipate that he'll play in Game 2 either, okay? So they're going to be very cautious with this. It's a hamstring, and you've got a guy who's entering his late 30s. You don't want to take a chance with this and have him be out longer in the playoffs. So I don't actually think you'll see him in this series until they lose. I could see if they get up 3-0 in this series, there's no reason to play him in a Game 4. I think you hold him out as long as you can. They won almost 3/4 of their games this season with Gabe Vincent as a starter. They can win with Gabe. Now that Oladipo's in the fold, too, they've got plenty of guards. You miss Kyle down the stretch of close games, but they can get by in this series without him at the beginning.
We saw that in the Game 5 clinching when we also know that Joel Embiid will miss the first 2 games of this series. How much does that help the Heat?
Well, helps him a lot. Obviously, you're talking about a top 3 MVP candidate this season. Even though Bam Adebayo has had some success against him over the years, we don't know when he's going to be back. The Heat don't know. Everything I've heard out of Philadelphia is that it's not really advisable for him to play in this series. This is a situation with the orbital bone being fractured. He could do some serious damage long term. So he is going to try to play. Everything I've heard is he is going to try to play with the mask, maybe even as soon as Game 3. I know Woj reported that for ESPN. I think that's optimistic. I don't think you'll see Joel Embiid until very late in this series, if at all in this series. The Heat need to take advantage of it, get up 2-0, and make it not necessary for Embiid to get back and just let them go into the offseason.
With him out of the lineup, who do the Heat need to key on defensively?
Tyrese Maxey. I know everybody wants me to say James Harden. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say James Harden. I've seen James Harden in enough playoff series. And look, James Harden is not in great shape right now. He's also got to come down to South Florida for a couple of games. I don't think James is going to be in bed by 3 a.m., so we'll see how that works out. Tyrese Maxey hurt them a lot in Philadelphia. They hunted Tyler Hero late in that game, but one of the advantages that the Heat have now is Gabe Vincent didn't play in that game, Victor Oladipo didn't play in that game. So if they're hunting Tyler Hero defensively, Eric Spoelstra has options against Tyrese Maxey he did not have the last time.
Ethan, you correctly predicted round 1 of the playoffs, the Heat in 5 games, put you on the spot. Prediction for round 2.
This is going to sound predictable. Heat in 5. I think it would have gone longer if Embiid was playing, but I really only see Philadelphia getting one game in this series. The Heat are relatively healthy with the exception of Lowry. I know they got some guys questionable, but they're all going to play. They got the home crowd in this series. I just don't think Harden can hurt them. And we know when Erik Spoelstra loads up against guards on defense, they don't do much. We saw that with Trae Young. He was a no-show in the first round. I think Harden will be mostly a no-show in this series. I'm going Heat in 5.
Ethan Skolnick, everybody, 5 Reasons Sports. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Josh.
The winner of this Miami-Philadelphia series will meet the victor between Milwaukee and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. Bucks and Celtics beginning their playoff series today. TD Garden, Bucks on the break. Javon Carter burying the triple. That put Milwaukee up early. 30 seconds left in the third. Drew Holiday underneath had a team-high 25. Fourth quarter, Bucks blowing it open. Giannis off the backboard to himself. Ooh, that's nasty. A triple-double for Antetokounmpo, 24, 13, and 12. Bucks take game 1 on the road, 101-89. Out west, 2-3 matchup, Grizzlies-Warriors. Second quarter, the Warriors' Draymond Green ejected for this flagrant 2 foul. He can't believe it. Warriors need to rally without their defensive stopper. Fast forward, 40 seconds to play. Warriors down 2. Check that. Up 1. Klay Thompson buries the triple. 3 seconds left. Memphis looking to answer. Ja Morant the look. And just too strong on the finger roll. Warriors take game 1 on the road, 117-116. On the ice, the Panthers completing their best regular season in franchise history. Now look to win a playoff series for the first time in more than 25 years, hosting the Washington Capitals in round 1 to start the playoffs. Adding to this already loaded Cats roster is Aaron Ekblad. The defenseman is set to return from injury. Top-seeded Panthers are the favorites to advance to the Stanley Cup out of the Eastern Conference.
Just go out and play. Obviously, there's going to be pressure on every team. Everybody wants them to, any fan base or everyone, like expectations and everything. That's the part of it. We handle the pressure really well. We enjoy the pressure and stuff like that. We play really well when we are under the pressure. So I think it's just a good thing.
To help get us set for the NHL playoffs, we bring in George Richards from Florida Hockey Now. Happy to have you here. We just heard from Captain Alexander Barkov discussing handling the playoff pressure. George, you asked him this question. For you, how much pressure is there on this team to start the postseason?
Well, I think there's a little bit, right? I mean, the Florida Panthers have not won a Stanley Cup playoff series since 1996. And I think that while those guys have not been here, the core group has. They did not win in 2016, 2020, last year against Tampa Bay. They're the #1 team in hockey. They need to get out of this first round, and I think they will. After that, everything's gravy. But for right now, yeah, I think there is a little bit of pressure on Florida.
Let's go deeper into this first-round opponent, the Washington Capitals. George, 2-1 in the regular season between these two teams. How does Florida match up in the postseason?
Well, listen, those games were played in November, so it was a long time ago. I think Florida matches up very well with Washington. The Capitals not playing very well. We don't know how healthy Alex Ovechkin is. And listen, Washington can get hot, but Florida is better in every single category than Washington is. Florida's third line is better than Washington's first, and that's just the facts of life here. So even though Washington has been there, done that, this is also a team that's been knocked out of the playoffs the last 3 years and really hasn't done anything since it won its cup, which is, was phenomenal, but they haven't done anything since then. So listen, Florida is the best team in hockey. They're going to take care of Washington.
You mentioned Ovechkin just there. He's dealing with that upper body injury. He did practice, but if he's healthy, how much does that impact the series?
It impacts the series quite a bit because Alex Ovechkin is still a 50-goal scorer. He's one of the most dynamic players in hockey. He can light it up. You give Washington too many power plays, he's going to set up in that left circle in his office. Boom. He'll get you some goals. I think the Panthers win this series, win it fairly easily, but if Alex Ovechkin gets hot, they get some good goaltending. NHL playoffs are nuts, man. You never know. They're crazy. Alex Ovechkin could get red hot and do some damage.
Could be a possibility that we do see Aaron Ekblad. He missed the final 21 games of the season, did practice today. Where's he at, George?
I think he's in the lineup for game 1, and it probably is the starting lineup when they announce the players. Listen, Aaron Ekblad, we were told it was a month probably a 3-week to 1 month injury with the way the salary cap is. We talked about this a couple weeks ago at the trade deadline. Florida was, if he's back in a month, well, that's 1 week. Yeah, just put him on long-term injured reserve. Let's get some salary cap money. That's what they did. Game 1 is Tuesday. Aaron Ekblad looks ready to go.
They have been saving him. You've mentioned you think that this will be all Panthers. I'm putting you on the spot prediction.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the good old gentleman's sweep, just like the Miami Heat against Atlanta. I think Florida wins this in 5.
The gentleman's sweep. You are the gentleman. George, we appreciate you.
You're the gentleman. You're the best.
Thanks. The NFL draft now complete. General Manager Chris Greer and new head coach Mike McDaniel going through their first selection process together. In their words, these past 3 days feeling more like 30 years.
There was one guy that we kind of targeted a little bit, and Mike fell out of his chair when he got picked by somebody.
No, I mean, I was composed. I was a professional. I was convinced. I was internalizing it all. It's felt like we've worked together for a long time, to the point that I feel like Chris might. Sometimes he looks at me and he's like, we've worked together a long time. I'm kind of sick of you at this point.
Extra points.
For more on the draft in the NFL, we welcome Drew Rosenhaus to the show. And Drew, of the 4 Dolphins draft picks, who do you expect to immediately contribute the most?
Yep, just back from Vegas, and I'm impressed with what the Dolphins did with only a handful of picks. They wound up getting a guy in Channing Tindall, the linebacker from Georgia, who could have been a much higher pick. The Dolphins had targeted this guy. They brought him in for a visit. He was someone that they were looking at. He'll be the 4th linebacker behind Jerome Baker, Landon Roberts, and Duke Riley. And you got to have a good 4th. You've got to have good depth. The Dolphins don't have that, and now they do with Channing Tindall. Really athletic guy who won a national championship for Georgia.
There's roughly $20 million left in cap space. Drew, what should General Manager Chris Greer's next move be?
Well, they're going to have to spend some of that on those rookies that we mentioned, but it won't be much since their highest pick was a 3rd rounder. And they only had a handful of picks. Certainly, they've signed some undrafted rookies, and they've got some good ones, actually. But I think they'll save some of that money to add players in case there's some injuries. And they may even add some veterans. They're still looking for another pass rusher. You can never have too many of those. I've had some conversations with the Dolphins about Carlos Dunlap, the former Cincinnati Bengal and Seattle Seahawk, as we break a little news here. And we've even talked to the Dolphins about Akeem Hicks, the dynamic defensive lineman from the Chicago Bears. So there's some great football players out there. You can never have enough top players, and they've got the money to spend if they want to.
Hopefully a few more find their way home here to Miami. And Drew, you also represent running back Devontae Price, prepped at FIU. Was slated as a day 2 pick, 2nd or 3rd round. He ends up sliding out of the draft. Why did he drop?
Well, unfortunately for Devontae, there were some medical concerns related to a concussion that he had in college that also continued into, unfortunately, the Senior Bowl and the Combine. But what a steal for the Colts. In fact, the Dolphins were interested in him. We were negotiating with them, but we felt like the Colts were a better opportunity depth-wise. Looking to make that team. They've got 2 backs, Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, and that's pretty much it. So we think Price has still got a very bright future. There are a lot of terrific football players who don't get drafted for medical reasons that turn out to be really good pros, and I expect him to be a terrific pro with the Colts.
For the fans, there's all of these grading systems, some even going as high as a 1st round. Malik Willis comes to mind. He falls to the 3rd.
Yes.
Why do these guys slide so much, or is it all perception?
Well, I do think it's got to be perception because all of the predictions come from media, right? And reports from the media. And I think the media in general does an amazing job. You never know how the draft's going to go. We were there with Chris Olave, and Olave went right where we thought he would be drafted at number 11, dead on. It's stunning, the unpredictability of the draft. That's why I go and I prepare players. I talk to Price. I talk to even our 1st rounder about the unknowns, and you got to roll with whatever happens and take advantage of your opportunity once the draft is over.
34 drafts for this man right here. We are lucky to have you on the show. Thank you, Drew.
Absolutely, man. Enjoyed it.
That's why we have Drew on the show, everybody. Could you imagine the pass rush of the Dolphins land Hicks and Dunlap We'll keep you posted on that. Next on Lexus Sports Extra, the Marlins looking for their 8th straight win. Find out if Miami can sweep Seattle. Plus, it's the story of one horse trainer that might not have ever been. Mike DePasquale explains after the break.